Hello my friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Ian with Out of This World Reader, and today's video is going to be another ambitious reading TBR for the month of May. So these last couple months I've been experimenting with a for sure list and then a maybe missed in my kind of TBR, and it hasn't went very well. And so this one is just going to be all the books that I will for sure be picking up throughout the month of May. These include some book club picks, and then some books that I've been doing some dedicated reading vlogs, and then just some books that I've kind of been feeling here pretty soon with library loans coming in and everything. So I think without further ado, let's hop in with all of these books I've got onto my TBR. These first two books are actually the books that I've been reading for a dedicated reading vlog for an author that I've kind of always wanted to read more from. And when I found all these books in my local bookstore for a very cheap price, I picked them all up. And last month I read two of them. I read a novella called a novel called A Man Called Ove, and then the novella And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer. So this month I'll pick up those other two that I got in that little book haul. The first one is Beartown. I'm not sure which of Frederick Bachman's kind of novels I've heard the most about, but I felt like Beartown or A Man Called Ove are either the ones that are talked about a lot and are favorites among a lot. But this one is kind of centered around a Swedish town, kind of in just the far reaches, where it's kind of like a small knit community, and they're all centered around kind of the sport of hockey. But the town is slowly starting to die down, people are starting to move away, and their hometown hockey team is actually going to play for the championship, and they're hoping that that will kind of bring back some more attention to the town, to the dying town. But there's also something else tragic that goes on during this, and it just kind of splits the community in two. And I've heard just great things about how Frederick Bachman kind of weaves together a ton of kind of perspectives, and how it all kind of leads up into just all of the other things he's kind of well known for. So, but I'm not sure if this is actually a series or not. I know there's a TV adaptation that I might check out if I do enjoy this, but if this is a series or not, and please let me know. And that other one is another, I think this is probably the third that I've heard a lot about, and it is My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. This one I really don't know anything about, and the only reason I picked it up is because it was kind of a discounted price, and since I loved kind of anxious people, I just took a chance and kind of picked up on it. I didn't know much, and I was just kind of jumping into the deep end. So I don't know what to expect with this one, but if you've read this one and you did enjoy it, please let me know. This next pick has been kind of calling out to me for my bookshelves for some time. I had to kind of take a pause from the series. I usually kind of binge the series, but for some reason I didn't want to continue with the third book for some reason, so I kind of just pushed it off and waited until I was into the right mood. But these last couple months, I've been feeling I wanted to get back into this kind of world and get back into it, and I really want to continue on with ACOTAR, with the third book, A Court of Wings and Ruin. I feel the second book compared to the first one really took another step up, and I just really enjoyed learning more about kind of the Star Court and kind of just the other characters that we kind of didn't get in the first book, but also kind of learned a little bit about in the first book. So, and then just kind of the little twists and turns that were throughout the second book and kind of where it left off. I'm very interested to see kind of how it will continue on with the series. I believe there's 4 books maybe out in this, maybe 5, I don't know. And I don't know if she has plans to come back to this, but I've really wanted to be getting back into this. I believe you know what ACOTAR is, so I won't kind of bore you with that. Getting back into some sci-fi. I set out to finish the whole Expanse series this year, and with some other books that I picked up this last month, I didn't get the chance to pick up Caliban's War, which is the second book in the Expanse series. So this is the one that I'll be reading this next month, and then maybe I can catch up and get back on board with my plan to finish this before the year is out. I really enjoyed the first book and how it kind of just introduced you to a lot through these two perspectives, Miller and Holden, and how Miller is kind of this detective, and he's kind of obsessed with this one case that he just hasn't got a break from. and he just feels like he just has to finish it out and figure out what's going on to this girl. And then now Holden is kind of put in a position that leads him down like a dangerous path, and he's kind of put on the run, and just how they both kind of weave together and connect in the end. And I haven't experienced a lot of kind of space opera, but I feel like The Expanse was kind of like a great introduction, and I just really enjoyed just everything, the world building about it, and how it isn't so kind of like into the future that it's just like a ton of hard sci-fi, but it's more of kind of just like an everyday kind of person kind of picking up a sci-fi and really enjoying it. So that's why I really connected with the first book a lot, as well as kind of the things it led on. Like, I just really enjoyed where it was going, and I'm very interested to see where this like 9-book series will go. So we'll see how it goes in the second book. Might as well just continue on with some more sci-fi. And it was another book that I missed, that I put on that for sure list that I didn't get to, and it was just the Skyward Flight, the collection of novellas by Brandon Sanderson. It has Sunreach, Redon, and Evershore, and they all kind of cover different characters that we don't get the kind of narration from in the Skyward books, whereas kind of we follow Spensa, in these we follow different characters. And it's probably a good thing that I didn't pick this up last month, because I was actually planning on reading the whole collection. And you have to read the kind of Cytonic before you pick up the last novella, so that kind of would have been like a bad case there. So this month I'll be picking up these the first two, Sunreach and Redon, which I'm not sure which characters they cover, but I've just been loving the kind of the world of Skyward and what Brandon Sanderson has kind of crafted in this kind of high stakes fight for survival, like humanity's kind of last chance, and where it kind of went in Starsight, and how it kind of expanded a little bit, but kind of was a repeat of the first book, if that makes sense. But I just loved kind of more of just spending time with Spensa, and how she's becoming like a better pilot, and how she's learning a lot of things and understanding what's really going on around. And just, I'm very interested to see how this kind of will progress, and where it will kind of lead off into kind of the fourth and final book, in Defiant. But if you haven't heard of Skyward, humanity's kind of been forced onto this planet that is kind of surrounded by ruins, and they've been forced underground because these constant attacks from the Krell basically kind of like put them on the brink of extinction every time they kind of invade. So they kind of bury underground and have these like gigantic cities, and these pilots kind of go up and fight the Krell, and they are basically what protect and stop the Krell from just completely wiping out humanity. And we follow Spensa, who her father used to be kind of one of the most famous pilots, but in one of the battles that kind of changed the tide in the war with the Krell, he supposedly fled. And because of that, Spensa and her family are kind of thrown to the shadows, and she has to kind of claw her way back up into kind of like this academy for the pilots. It's very high stakes, and she kind of grapples with just like how the past and how her father's kind of decision kind of impacts her and her training. But also she's kind of trying to make friends, where in the past she has never really kind of had any friends at all. She's kind of had one, and you see her kind of change and develop in the first book, and then you continue with that in the second book, and it just like continues to expand on. But I just kind of really enjoyed this series a lot, and I'm looking forward to just getting to these and then picking up Cytonic here pretty soon. For another kind of like dedicated reading block that I've kind of been planning is doing, kind of focusing on just fantasy standalones, because if you're like me, it is like committing to a lot of series is kind of daunting, and I have to kind of make sure that I finish the series, but I really want to dive into a ton of them, so it's just hard. So I think fantasy standalones are a good kind of mix to throw in, and I've been hunting the internet to find kind of like the best standalones, and I'm hoping to do kind of like a dedicated video to just like a YA, and then an adult, and kind of just all in one vlog kind of picking those up. But for this month, I'm planning on squeezing in the YA book, and that is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This one just sounds so cool. It kind of involves like this kind of mysterious library that holds all these grimoires that are kind of very like dangerous, and our main character kind of guards these, and she has to make sure that these grimoires don't kind of escape. But I believe one of them escapes, and she's got to kind of unite with like one of her enemies or something like that, and they have to bring back the grimoire before it kind of destroys everything. There's like some magic involved with it, and one of the blurbs that I saw was like, if you like the Hogwarts library, like you'll really enjoy this. So, and I've heard great things about just like most of Margaret Rogerson's kind of books, and she just had a new release, and they're all standalones, which is really cool. So I think she'll be featured on these kind of like dedicated vlogs a lot. But I'm really hoping to pick this up. I was hoping to pick it up last month, and just for some reason I didn't get to it, but this month it is for sure going to be read. And the last physical book that I have here is Age of Ash by Daniel Abraham. This is actually one of the authors that wrote The Expanse, but I've been trying to kind of keep up with all the fantasy new releases. And this one I believe came out in January, so it's just due time for me to get to it, and I'm hoping to pick up at least 1 to 2 every month. And I'm still missing out on like a ton from the past, and there's just a ton coming up. So, but this one has really caught my eye because it follows like 3 different perspectives of the same kind of tell of a tale in the city of Kithamar. And in each book, it's kind of like a little bit of a standalone, how you end with that perspective, and then in the next book you kind of get a different viewpoint. So I'm very interested to see how kind of Daniel Abraham will kind of take a spin on that. But in this one, we follow kind of like a petty thief who kind of lives in the slums, and her brother is brutally kind of murdered, and she's just kind of on the quest for revenge. She's got to like figure out what's going on, how he died, and how she kind of can get her revenge. But as she kind of starts to learn more things, she discovers that what she's learning is putting her in a lot of danger, and basically from her position she's able to topple thrones, I believe. So I actually haven't heard much about this. The only thing that I have heard is from Elliot Brooks's channel, and she actually DNF'd this, so like I'm a bit scared because we actually have similar kind of reading tastes, but we'll see where it goes. Like, but I'm really hoping that I like this. I do like The Expanse a lot, so I'm hoping that I will enjoy this just as much. And then as far as books that I don't have yet, or kind of I'm doing digital loans from my library, the first one is actually the second book in our series read-along of the David Bad trilogy, which is The Kingdom of Copper. I'm currently reading The City of Brass, and like, I love kind of the atmosphere that's in this. Like, I really do feel like I'm in the city of David Bad, and kind of as these perspectives are kind of going about the city, this magical city, like I just feel like fully immersed in the story, and I just love the writing about it. But the only thing that's kind of like I'm not like fully enjoying about it is like, it doesn't seem like there's much of a plot yet. I feel like it's just been kind of these characters kind of adjusting to these roles that they kind of put in, or arriving in David Bad and kind of how they're uncovering their past and how they're dealing with it, as well as kind of the changes coming to the city. Like, I can sense a plot in the background, but I'm just waiting for it to kind of like be unveiled. But I have a feeling that once it's kind of fully revealed, like I will just be in love with the series. This is another one like everyone kind of recommends, and I just love kind of like the elements of like folklore and just like stories kind of weaved into it, the djinn, and how like just everything about like the city of David Bad and kind of the different tribes that are within it. Like I love it. And I feel like this kind of non-Western fantasy is just something that I really wanted to get more into. And I think more and more like authors are starting to put out books, and it makes me so happy because like it is so rich of just like culture and stuff like that I really love kind of reading about. And then one that I'm kind of really excited that sounds really similar to this, but I haven't got my hands on a copy yet, is The Stardust Thief. It just is another kind of tale weaved with like folklore, and I believe it's like 1001 Nights, kind of a little bit of kind of inspiration in that. So like I've just been on kind of like this vibe for some time now. So if you do want to join in for that kind of like series read along, there'll be a link to the Discord down below. These next two are actually books that I've been waiting forever on my library. Like, they actually canceled my loan the first time, and I was so mad. But now both of them kind of like arrived at the same time. I actually got an email this morning for Under the Whispering Door. It's finally my turn. And then The House of the Cerulean Sea. I think it was like a wait, like I'm actually next in line. So I'm planning on just like going from one book to the next as soon as I finish The City of Brass. But both of these, like by TJ Klune, like I've heard nothing but great things about. As far as kind of like Under the Whispering Door, like it sounds really interesting because it kind of plays with I believe like the kind of the ferryman and this man kind of dies, and he is basically put into this like little tea shop or cafe. And at this tea shop, like I believe like the ferryman is going to like give him like the best time he's ever had before he has to kind of take him to the afterlife. So like that sounds really interesting. And I've heard that people didn't enjoy it as much as In the House of Cerulean Sea, but that sounds really good. And I've just heard a lot of great things about that, both of them in general. But like In the House of the Cerulean Sea, like that sounds really interesting as well, because it follows all these kind of troublesome children, and our character has to kind of go to this house on the Cerulean Sea, or in the Cerulean Sea, I can't remember, and he has to make sure that they're kind of not going to cause a lot of trouble for humanity and kind of wipe everybody out. And each of the kind of children there kind of start to form bonds with, I think his name is Linus. But I'm really excited for those, and that's like, it's been a long time coming, but I'm really excited to get to those. And the last book on this TBR is going to be a nonfiction. I've just kind of been on the nonfiction kind of kick. I'm currently reading a really great one. And this one is Life in the Globe by Catherine Arden. And I believe she kind of details just the life within Shakespeare's kind of globe, and how the theater kind of performances were kind of conducted there. And I've always kind of wanted to like learn more about Shakespeare. Like for some reason in school, like the only work of Shakespeare we were required to read was Romeo and Juliet. But that was it, like nothing else. And I haven't checked out anything like else by him. I really wanted to, so I'm hoping that this kind of like nonfiction will kind of inspire me to pick up more from him, because he's like one of the greatest. But I actually haven't heard much about this. Like I just saw it on kind of my library, and I was like, well, why not? So when that comes to me here pretty soon, I will be listening to that as an audiobook. But that is going to be all for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing you in the next adventure. So if you did enjoy, please consider liking and subscribing. What books are you planning on picking up in the month of May, and what was your favorite book that you read in the month of April? But that is going to be all from me. It is time for Ellie to come on here and first wish you all to have a splendid day. But she also says that adventure is out there. So I'll catch you next time. Bye.